The sun beat down on the baked earth, a relentless eye in a bleached sky. Dust devils danced in the street, swirling around the worn boots of two men. This wasn't just another day in this forgotten corner of the world. This was the day the score would be settled. One man stood heavy, rooted like an old stump. Kenny. His face was a roadmap of hard living and harder choices, set in a permanent sneer. He carried the weight of years of taking what he wanted, of being the biggest dog in a small yard. He was quick, they said. Quick enough for anyone who'd crossed him before. His hand hovered near the worn leather of his holster, a familiar, arrogant gesture. He owned the street, or so he thought. Across from him, the other man waited. Vincent, lean, watchful, like a coiled spring. There was a stillness about him, a quiet strength that spoke of distant horizons and battles fought far from these dusty plains. He was a former cavalry officer. He wasn't from here, not really. He brought a different kind of air with him, a sense of order and respect that grated on men like Kenny. He was liked, trusted. That alone was enough to earn Kenny's hate. The air crackled, thick with unspoken history, land disputes, whispers about a woman caught between their worlds. All the ugliness of a small town boiled down to this single, inevitable moment. Kenny's voice cut through the silence, rough and grating. It held the false bravado of a man who knew his time was running short, but refused to admit it. He wanted to push, to provoke. "This town isn't big enough for the both of us," Kenny spat, the words hanging heavy in the still air. It was the oldest line in the book, a challenge thrown down like a gauntlet. He expected a reply, a matching boast. But Vincent offered no such comfort. He didn't raise his voice, didn't meet the challenge with fire. He simply looked at Kenny, a look that held no fear, only grim certainty. He spoke, but the words were low, almost a whisper, meant only for himself. A quiet finality settled over the street. He understood the stakes, the absolute nature of what was about to happen. "Time for you to go then," Vincent murmured, the words barely audible above the wind. Permanently. It wasn't a threat. It was a statement of fact, a soldier acknowledging the grim necessity of the moment. Kenny's hand twitched, then blurred. Years of practice of relying on raw speed took over. His revolver cleared leather, the hammer cocking back with a sharp click that echoed in the sudden silence. He was fast, no doubt about it. But Vincent wasn't just fast. He was smart. He'd faced death before, not in a one-on-one duel, but in the chaos of battlefields where survival meant thinking, not just reacting. He knew about angles, about cover, about not being where the enemy expected you to be. As Kenny's gun cleared his holster, Vincent didn't stand and shoot. He moved, a sudden, unexpected lunge to his left, a controlled dive that broke the line of sight, that changed the geometry of the fight. It was instinct honed by combat. His own hand went to his side, not for a traditional six-shooter, but for something different. A Browning 1911, a .45 caliber automatic, a weapon built for stopping power, for putting a man down and keeping him there. It was innovation in a world clinging to the past. He drew it smooth, bringing it up as he hit the ground, the heavy automatic feeling solid and reliable in his grip. There was no wasted motion, no hesitation. Just the cold, hard focus of a man doing what needed to be done. Kenny's shot went wide, aimed at where Vincent had been a split second before. The sound was deafening, a single roar that ripped through the quiet street, but it was a shot fired at empty air. Vincent fired back. Not one shot, but two. Double tap, center mass, a technique learned where failure meant death for himself and the men he led. He aimed for the biggest target, the place where the most damage could be done. The .45 roared twice, a deeper, more authoritative sound than Kenny's revolver. The heavy slugs tore through the air, finding their mark with brutal efficiency. Two distinct impacts, solid and final. The sheer force of the 45 caliber rounds was devastating. Kenny's body recoiled violently, lifted off his feet by the impact. He stumbled backward, a look of shock replacing the sneer on his face, propelled by the raw energy of the heavy bullets. He crashed to the ground in a heap, the dust billowing around him. His gun lay uselessly beside him, the fight gone out of him in an instant. The street fell silent once more, the only sound the settling dust and the ringing in the ears. Vincent rose slowly, brushing the dust from his clothes. His pistol remained in his hand, pointed low, a professional courtesy to ensure the threat was neutralized. He approached the fallen man cautiously, his eyes scanning for any sign of movement. There was none. Kenny lay still, his reign of arrogance and intimidation ended by 2 well-placed shots from a modern weapon, wielded by a man who understood the grim realities of combat. He was done, permanently. Slowly, tentatively, figures began to emerge from the doorways and alleys where they had hidden. The townspeople. They had lived under Kenny's shadow for too long, enduring his bullying, his demands, his casual cruelty. They saw Kenny's lifeless form in the dust, and a collective sigh seemed to sweep through the street. Relief, elation, a burden lifted. The fear that had held them captive for so long began to dissipate like the morning mist. Kenny's evil ways, his grip on their lives, were finally broken. A quiet cheer went up, then another, growing into a murmur of gratitude and hope. They looked at Vincent, not with fear, but with respect and admiration. In the weeks and months that followed, the town began to change. Vincent, the former officer, the man who brought a 45 to a 6-shooter fight, was asked to take on a new role. He became the sheriff. He didn't just wear the badge, he built something new. He shared his knowledge, training the townspeople not just in how to shoot, but in tactics, in self-defense, in working together. Men and women who had once cowered became deputies, standing tall. The town, once small and stagnant under Kenny's thumb, began to thrive. Innovation followed order. Respect replaced fear. With each new dawn, a new life, a new future seemed to arrive for the folks who called this place home. Vincent saw the change, the prosperity, the peace he had helped forge. His work was done. He had brought order to chaos, protection to the vulnerable. He eventually retired, the sound of the 45 a distant echo, living out his days in the quiet peace he had earned. Like, share, and subscribe to the channel for more battles.